So much bad news. Oh my gosh, you guys, the sky is as always falling and I don't know what to do about it. I'm seeing news of recalls. I'm seeing AI competition and robotics competition is heating up. Is this just a car company? What on earth are we doing? Let's get to the bottom of it. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. Joining me as he does is Herbert. Herbert is a serial entrepreneur, a expert in robotics, a well-versed student of AI, and a guy who owned a software company himself. Herbert.
A lot of that is so wrong. Not an expert in AI or robotics, but I follow it closely.
Wow. I don't know, man. I would strongly disagree, but you're just being modest. I gotta make sure people know that you're the real deal here. Guys, if you get a chance, maybe consider supporting on Patreon or one of the other many ways you can support the channel, or just leave comments and all that good stuff. It's fine either way. Herbert, I'm freaking out. Tesla to fix 1.7 million vehicles in China, says market regulators. Reuters wouldn't lie to me, would they?
Yeah. No. It's gonna be very, very, very expensive. Oh my gosh, it's gonna cost them, I think, maybe $5. Maybe. What do you think? Press a button. Software update fixed.
Yeah, well, but there's a sensor on the front. Maybe they had to change a setting. So what's the reality here?
Yeah, over-the-air software update, that's all it is. Happens all the time. They still call it a recall. It's interesting that it's in China, though. Okay, that's obviously another, they still call it a recall. Obviously, it didn't come from them, right?
Right. It is not. Well, they're using the, you could say that they're arguing the terminology accepted in the US where the article is published, or you could say they're using the least charitable phrasing possible. Either way, it's not very good. And then, of course, if you look at this here, you'll see that.
Oh, by the way, I like the number 1.7 million. That shows you how many cars that are actually there that needed the recall, but that tells you that's a good update. Point. So see, I said recall software update.
Yeah. So on Google News, the way they framed it, of course, 1.7 million, 1.7 Teslarati, with the rare putting recall in quotes, fixed by software update. That's how you do it. Thank you, Joey Klender, for actually bringing some nuance and perspective. That's better. But I don't know if you've heard, very scary news. The AI bubble is bursting and Tesla's gonna get burned. What on earth? Well, so first of all, there's no bias here. Tesla's a car company. No matter what Elon and his army of Long Tesla hodlers will tell you, AI, or the fancy machine learning models and they're just response generators, Herbert. If I were to bring you on and say, look, I know what I'm talking about, and I called AI a response generator, how seriously would you take me?
That is, so let's break this down a little bit, right? There is definitely a huge movement in I guess the world right now that's thinking that where the AI has been overplayed, that there is an AI winter coming, because many of these companies have invested significant money on chips generating these large language models, these generative models out there, and they have yet to prove that there's a revenue stream coming back. If it's true, I think Microsoft reported that they had 10,000 users paying them $20 a month. That's not enough for the billions and billions that they're putting in. So there's a group out there going, AI has been overplayed and it's done and it's over with. Of course, they can't be anywhere more wrong than that, right? This is the beginning of what can happen with this. On the other side, you've got people pointing at large language model, which is, people investing in AI to create these computer generated language and vision and so forth. What it isn't is a revenue model like Tesla has. Tesla's investing in data centers, the largest supercompute, because they have real world AI. So just yesterday I had a panel and I asked them the question, do you really need real world AI? Because Elon was just interviewed and he said, I think it was a Lex Friedman interview where he said that we need to build the largest data centers in the world because we're going to have access to it's unbelievable how much data we're going to have. Basically, we're going to capture all of reality. And the reason is that, you have the cars capturing all the videos of what's happening when it drives around, but it's very limited to intersections in the city. When you have a bot, it's living in reality. And so Elon gave the example of what happens when a bot pours water into a cup. Well, the bot can look inside and it can see whether or not the water is pouring in exactly and how it's behaving. There's no data, there's no video, there's no touch, there's no even senses that tell you the audible sentences that's been captured to capture that moment. And there's like trillions, billions and trillions of those kinds of events. So do you need real world data, that video data, so that you can teach? And of course, the answer from all of us long-term Tesla hodlers is that yes, you need this data. If you don't have this data, you can't do all of the use cases. So yes, you can have a Waymo and a Cruise drive you around in blocks and around, but can it actually recognize fog? Can it recognize when a human, puts up a sign and says, don't go this way, and gives hand signals? Can it recognize these kinds of use cases? And I think that with these kinds of data, you can do many more use cases. You can have a bot that can do pick and place. It can grab a box, put it here, and do it very, very well. But can it do things like, go get me the tea that's behind the cupboard, grab that one, and then, put sugar in it too. Can it do that? And it may not be able to do that. And only if you have dexterous fingers and you have all that data.
The expiration dates, get me the oldest tea first. This week, the tech, AI, and robotics bubble has begun to burst when major AI tech invested companies posted disappointing earnings and disclosed billions of dollars of investment. Now, would it be fair to say that this is like the early .com rush where everyone was posting big expenses and limited revenue? And as we all know, the internet ended.
Yeah. So
there's no more internet.
I've been saying this for a year. Very strongly believe this is not the same thing as the .com bubble. This is not the same thing because this is real productivity. So these AI plays, even the large language model, is being used by professionals and workers and employees and improving their jobs. So this is just the beginning. This is a real value to people. And it's, as you watch it every single month, every quarter, there's a new advance. We are getting just the amazing things that AI is able to accomplish. So yes, there might be a little blip because they spent all this money and they're trying to figure it out. But the more data you have, the more data centers you have, the neural nets is proving that it's very valuable. You will see it automatically skyrocket again once they figure out where to put the right use cases. But no, this is not the same as before. This is real. It's impacting economy. It's impacting productivity big time.
Well, okay, so you put my mind at ease on AI, but I don't know. I feel like you covered this just yesterday or the day before. Tesla pauses factory plans in Thailand.
I was going to ask you this question. So obviously,
sure.
I should not have reposted this article because it's not like Tesla actually had plans for a Thailand factory that was, more than rumors. But yeah, you have to kind of explain that, this is coming directly from reports from, Thailand government. They're saying this, but I was going to ask you about this. You're the one who knows this better.
Well, sure. It never got past the rumor phase. They were courting Tesla, but many, many countries are doing this. And it's not, I don't blame the author. I don't blame Simon. Simon does generally good work, and I'm not going to discount this as not good work. India said the same thing. India said, well, it looks like the factory is on hold. There wasn't a factory, you guys. We will not see development until we know what the next step is. On 10/10, I assume. And it wouldn't surprise me if on 10/10, announcements are made regarding factory plans.
It's actually a positive sign. And I know people are going to hate to hear this because it's like everything you say is positive. Everything Tesla does is positive. But when they're delaying these kinds of factories, it's because they're deciding whether or not should we build a factory that's going to create, basically drivable cars? Or are we already at the point where we can create factories to build robotaxis? And we need to kind of just wait a little bit until we know for sure, timing wise, what's happening to the economy and all that, whether or not we should go double down. They have enough factories, as you've pointed out many times over, that can deliver the very first several years worth of robotaxis. You don't need to rush today. That's the way I interpret it. It's like, it's actually good news. That means that they're pausing to say, should we do? It's the same. Remember, you and I were the first people to say that maybe the reason Tesla Semi was delayed is because maybe they thought robo trucking is going to be the future. Why build millions and millions of a semi that they might need to redesign? Don't know. But that may
stranded assets is what I would call those. And you say, well, they could still be used as robotaxis. Yeah, but now you're carrying all this extra weight, and the cost per mile is what matters. If you're losing even a penny or two a mile, that could be a critical difference. And yeah, I would agree with all that. There's, the people who are saying that this is bad news that we don't have factory expansion can be right on one front, while you are still right on the other front.
Yep.
And as I've said a million times now, getting the factory dialed into exactly what you need it to be is critical. That's why Ford, after refurbishing one or two plants, said, okay, enough of this. We're going to go greenfield and start from scratch, because the inherent inefficiencies by trying to hermit crab into an old building is just not worth it. And if we can squeeze an extra $50 out per car, factories making 1 million cars a year, 10 years, that's $500 million. But so you put my mind at ease on the factory front, but I don't know if you know this, man. There's so much bad news. I need you to talk me down from the ledge. Okay. Figure redesigns its humanoid robot from the ground up. From the ground up. And which ground might that be? Because I feel like the ground might be the one Optimus was walking on a year ago.
I guess what they're referring to there is that it did take 18 months for this Figure 2, version 2 to come out compared to Figure 1. We're going to do a live stream on this, you and I, and we're going to debate whether or not Brett Adcock is absolutely saying things that are just ridiculous. Of course, and he is. He's saying that the Figure Robot 2 is the most advanced robot out there. But when you compare what Figure 2 does to what Tesla already released, 4 months ago, January, Milan Kovac, the head of basically the Tesla bot development in Tesla, pointed out, he showed, Tesla Figure 2 overlaid their 2-minute video compared to what Tesla's done in the past. And it's a copy, but they are already behind to Tesla because of the hands. If you look at the hands, if you look closely at the hands of the Figure bot, it's really just a giant hand with all the actuators in the hand. And then you see that it's just basically connected to the wrist. There's no wrist. And what they've done is they put all the actuators in the hand, 16 degrees of freedom. And then Elon just said at the Lex Friedman interview just the weekend ago, he said that, they made the decision to move those actuators to the forearm because that's the way that our hands work, where if fingers moved, most of the muscles doing that is like a puppet being moved from muscles in the forearm. That allows them to have more dexterous hands. They're going to now make every finger different sizes. You can see here that even the pinky here is the same size as the others. That lets you be able to do fine motor dexterity. And then you don't have this massive palm. It's going to be much more able to do things that you can't do when you have that kind of scenario. So these guys are probably behind in the hands, but don't make no, I have been saying to people, I'm a big fan of Figure. Despite the CEO being quite brash, I still believe that they will succeed. There is room for many successful general humanoid bots and just robots in general out there. Many of them will succeed. Many of them will die. Many of them will die. But many of them will succeed. Unlike the electric vehicle market, by the way, EVs, there's one use case, transportation. Okay, and it's really hard to get profitable. In a robot business, there is infinity use cases. So if you needed to, you can find, and the margins are so high that you can, not be able to produce these and scale that as well. But nothing's going to catch Tesla. Tesla is so much more advanced in every way. But I just think that people who think that Figure is a scam, they're not a scam. I don't believe that they are. I've seen exactly what they're able to do. And so I do not compare them to Nikola, what's his name? Trevor Milton, which was a full scam where they had their truck just, pretended to drive, but in fact it was going down a hill. That is not what's happening here.
understand that Ad Brettcock is a pretty brash person. He likes to block people who disagree with him, which is not a good look for a CEO. But I also would agree, this is not a scam. It might just be the wrong direction. And when he says it is the most advanced robot out there, out there is doing some heavy lifting, because if it is actually deployed, then technically it would beat ones that Tesla has, because those aren't out there. Those are internal.
Oh, I see. You're just using a play on the words. Out there meaning like a customer using it in a physical thing. Sure. Because let's be fair and show both sides here. And then, for that matter, successful test of humanoid robots at BMW Group plant in Spartanburg. That's good news for them. This is an interesting robot. So, yeah, I think that the test was successful. They showed 5. We'll see what happens in the next several months, but I'm hearing rumors that it was actually very successful, which means that BMW sees this as a useful bot, meaning to say that they're not just doing it for pilot's sake and I want to see what happens in the future. No, it's already at the point where I could see it taking over certain roles and be able to do useful work, which means that it can work as long as humans or more than humans. It can work as fast as humans. If it can be slower than humans, but if it can work 3 shifts, then it counters that. That it can be as high quality as humans. It doesn't make as many mistakes, and it cost is not prohibitive. If it meets all that, then Tesla, BMW go, let's get me more. Now, remember that Tesla said that we are building our next 3rd generation bot by the end of this year. It's going to be called version 1, and we're going to be thousands, multiple thousands in our factories. That means, Scott Walter is pointing out, that means that they has found thousands of jobs in Tesla that it can replace. You can't just, maybe you might have 10, maybe you have 20, but if you have thousands, that means there's like 1,000 roles that you can see it working for. That gives you the confidence at that point that, boy, they've got something that's working.
On the speed front, I would point out that humans are capable of fantastic burst rates, but you cannot sustain those. If you're comparing the normal rate of a robot to the burst rate of a human, it's an unfair comparison, because a human could only do that for 5, 10, maybe 60 minutes before they're going to need to stop and recharge. And a lot of jobs in factories don't require full human speed. Some of it is you just have to grab this thing and move it, and then wait for the next thing to arrive. And in that regard, you could have a very slow human doing it, or a medium speed bot.
By the way, if you watch the bots today and you see how slow they walk, how slow they move, it's just because that is not the priority. I've interviewed a number of CEOs of these humanoid bot companies and asked them the same question, and they all agree that increasing the speed is actually trivial. So there's a group of people who say, oh no, that's going to be a lot of work. That's like completely impossible for them to increase the speed. The only reason that they've said to me that they've not worked on the speed is because they're focused on autonomous training. They're focused on the hardware, trying to figure out which hardware works best. Like, can I get away with 16 degrees of freedom? Can I get 22? Once they lock all that down, the speed part is trivial. They can increase the speed. They want to make sure that once it's figured out the AI part of it and then how it learns. So, this whole idea that they're so slow, that's going to be temporary. In fact, if anything, they're going to be superhuman.
Mm-hmm. If I had the smartest, most reliable, longest working employee, but he walks a little bit slow, he'd be my best employee.
You bet.
So I appreciate you talking me down from the ledge, Herbert. What a tough day for all of us investors to not have any certainty. Oh, my gosh. It gets silly after a while, but I appreciate you playing my little game and helping folks understand what the reality is. Guys, in the comments, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Why is the sky falling? And everybody else, like, subscribe, do the usual, and stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots, yes, robots, on the Flippity Flop.